Hey guys, and welcome back. We're going to be discussing the top 5 Kliq moments that influence the wrestling business. In 5, we have got the formation of the original D Generation X. So, you had Shawn Michaels and Triple H, who at the time were big deals, especially Shawn Michaels, who were on title run after title run. Some of the biggest matches of that time was by Shawn Michaels. He was facing the biggest stars, and also Triple H, a promising star rising up through the ranks, who later would be shown to deliver so much to the business, not just in the ring but out the ring. So, why was this number 5? Because this is the first time we see a true little bit of attitude in the WWE. So we have the Monday Night War raging on. You had WCW with the NWO absolutely cleaning house. And then D-Generation X pops up and starts doing not the same sort of thing, but similar thing. Less than a gang mentality and more of a crude humour style to them, where they rip the absolute crap out of many members of the WWE staff, including wrestlers, announcers, and who else you could ever imagine, including Sergeant Slaughter. He got the brunt of a lot of puns and a lot of attitude from him. So, this is an integral part of the Kliq's history, simply because it set the foundation for the new D-Generation X, in which we may not even got the shifting tide that allowed WWE to win the Monday Night Wars. In 4, we have Shawn Michaels versus Ramon at WrestleMania 10, the infamous ladder match. So this is just a huge part of wrestling history, simply because it made the ladder match such a exciting, amazing match. There've been a few before it, but nothing like what they put on that night. It cemented Shawn Michaels as being a legend in the business. It cemented Scott Hall as being a huge talent in the business. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if the monochrome of Mr. WrestleMania started with that match. The basic premise of the match was to become the undisputed IC champion, in which Razor Ramon eventually won. But the match they put on influenced so many wrestlers and so many variations of matches throughout the years, including the TLC matches, which Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudley Boys would be a part of, and also the Money in the Bank ladder match. In 3, we have the Shawn Waltman shoot. So, 1998. So, 1998, Shawn Waltman was part of the NWO originally, but he jumped across ship to the WWE. And then he joined D-Generation X, which, yeah, is huge. He came off so much heat from the NWO run and being such a massive telly time, he jumped all the way across to the other side of the fence and be a part of another massive faction. But why was this shoot such a big deal? He called in question the WCW management, in which he stated that if it wasn't for Eric Bischoff, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be with him to join D-Generation X. Whether or not this is true is irrelevant. You had WCW on a massive run where they could do no wrong. They're literally pounding WWF into the ground with ratings, and there's nothing they couldn't do. So this for me was a turning point, because we saw the infallible WCW being called into question over management of talent, which could only harm them. And also, you do slightly start to see the tide change, whether it's because of this shoot or whether because of Degeneration X itself is of opinion. But I think this is one of the biggest moments of Kliq history. In 2, the Outsiders Invasion. In 96, we have Hall and Nash, who been offered very lucrative contracts from WCW to jump across from WWE. And as we now know, you gotta do what's best for business. And they did. But the angle they played off was absolutely huge and led up to one of the biggest factions of all time. So they left WWE from 2 massive runs, Razor Ramon and Diesel. So they had 2 massive runs in their own right, and obviously being part of the Kliq, being long-time friends, they felt comfortable to lead an invasion of sorts against WCW. So the angle was Scott Hall will come into the ring, say, you know who we are, but you don't know why we're here. Then Kevin Nash would turn up a week later after his contract expired with WWF, and then just form, or get the implication that they're working still for the WWF, and that they were going to bring down WCW from the inside. They were going to tear down each talent, and also it led into a massive storyline in which they said they had a 3rd member, which would form what we know as now the NWO, the New World Order. And as we know from history, that member was Hulk Hogan. And it went from being WWF sending them as the angle to them forming their own company within WCW to take over. And without the Outsiders invasion of WCW, you wouldn't have got the Monday Night Wars. You had, before that, we had the little back and forth between Raw and Nitro. You know, every now and then one top or the other, but mainly WWE was on top. Vince was seeing, you know, as he mentioned in documentaries, a lot of changes happening to WCW. They're becoming, like, there's actually becoming threats to the WWE, which, you know, is worrying as a businessman. But as soon as the Outsiders hit, this is when the tide started to change for the Monday Night Wars, which would ensue to them winning for near on 2 years. So, in one, the biggest moment of Kliq history that has influenced the wrestling world, the curtain call. So, this was as we mentioned, they got offered lucrative contracts to jump ship, and there was at Madison Square Garden of all places, in which they broke kayfabe, which at the time was such a huge thing, especially in the WWE. It was a massive part of the culture. You couldn't break kayfabe. You literally spat in the face of everything to do with the wrestling business, because you needed your baby faces, you needed your heels, and they were protected in and out of the ring back then. It wasn't they've got their own lives. You had Razor Ramon, who was Razor Ramon, literally 24/7 a day. You had Shawn Michaels, who was a heartbreak kid, and whatever he did on camera, we expected him to do in real life. So if he sweet-chinned music his best friend, we expect him to walk down the street and sweet-chin music someone for mouthing off to him. That was how deep kayfabe was back then. So this really spawned, in my mind, what would become the massive Monday Night War, because we had Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash all in the ring, breaking kayfabe and giving a final goodbye. Now, this may not seem like a big deal nowadays, but back then it was huge. And one major part of this which really sticks with me and why it has such a huge impact on the wrestling world, was not just that you had the two outsiders to leave to go to WCW, and you had the two members of D Generation X in that very ring. You also had the behind the scene thing going on. There's so much uproar backstage. Where was all this heat gonna go? Where was all this animosity gonna go? So, they couldn't touch Hall. They couldn't touch Nash. They were out of the company. They couldn't touch Shawn Michaels simply because it was the biggest star they've got. He was the money maker at the time. So Hunter Hearst Helmsley got a lot of heat. He got a lot of heat and he got a lot of opportunities took away from him, which also helped propel other wrestlers into the limelight, in which I'm actually going to do another video on to go into some of the ramifications of the curtain call. But the animosity felt at that time, in my opinion, later spawned the D-Generation X Army, in which they took back the Monday Night War from WCW. So this makes the curtain call so infamous because you have a backstage group coming to light of being friends, whether they're babyfaces or heels. You have the formation of two of the most powerful factions that have ever been, the NWO and D-Generation X, in which the Monday Night War will be decided between them two factions. Whether that's an unpopular opinion or not, I don't know, but I feel that if NWO wouldn't have stuttered and fell apart, that maybe they could clinch the Monday Night War away from D-Generation X. But DX were unfaulting, and they brought their best and brought so much excitement to the wrestling business that's the reason they won the Monday Night Wars. But that's for a different video. So thank you for listening to my top 5 Kliq moments that influenced the wrestling business. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you all here again.